After November's withdrawal from Kherson city, Ukraine held the Dnipro's west bank. Across the water, Russian artillery hit neighborhoods daily, bridges gone, ferries watched, every crossing under threat. Civilians queued for water under sirens. Sappers mapped mines along flooded banks while counter-battery radars hunted guns across the river. Farther east in Zaporizhia Oblast, skirmishes flared around Kyiv, Huliaipol, and Polohi. UAVs marked movements. Artillery and mines fixed lines in the steppe. Both sides fortified for spring, dragon's teeth, trenches, and strongpoints. No sweeping advances, only contact reports and measured pushes under snow. Winter arrived in Ukraine not as a blanket of peace, but as a storm of steel. In December 2022, the momentum of autumn ebbed, and across the eastern steppe the front lines froze. What followed was a season of endurance, steady, methodical, unrelenting. Foxholes iced over, trenches deepened, and positions turned from temporary footholds into fortified winterscapes meant to be lived in more than fought over. For both sides, survival became strategy. Conserve strength, hold ground, endure the cold, and outlast the barrage until the thaw. In snow-choked lines from the Donbass to the heights near Vuhledar, soldiers fought two enemies, the fire in front and the cold that seeped through every seam. Seeking momentum, Russia pressed frontal assaults toward Bakhmut and Vuhledar, pushing armor and infantry across open white fields. The plan was simple and brutal: apply mass, grind defenders down, force a crack in the ridge. But the weather, the mines, and watchful drones turned each advance into costly meters. Ukraine answered with active defense, trading ground of little value to bleed attacking units while preserving its own combat power. The landscape told the tale. A ruined farmhouse here, a tree-lined trench there, each fought over in cycles of blast and silence. Gains were counted in single digits, lost and won again, as artillery and small teams decided battles one courtyard, one cellar, one firing lane at a time. Logistics set the limits of possibility. Overhead, cheap FPV drones multiplied, while artillery, still king, beat the war's winter rhythm. In dugouts, stoves glowed and rifles dried. Above, blackout skylines flickered with faint islands of light. This was the winter of endurance, maps frozen in place, minds and methods adapting beneath the snow. Each day held was a quiet victory, one more step toward the thaw, when the character of the war would shift again. Late December into early January, the fight shifted to Soledar, northeast of Bakhmut, a town of salt and warehouses with a labyrinth of mines beneath its streets. On the surface, snow and shattered brick. Below, dark galleries and echoing shafts. Wagner assault groups pressed in from multiple edges, while Ukrainian defenders traded ground to buy time. As one reporter put it, the town felt carved in salt and dust, every block contested above and below. Underground, squads moved by headlamp through the salt works. Humid air, chalk-white walls, breath fogging, boots crunching. Tunnels offered covered routes for resupply and evacuation, but they were choke points too. A single blast could seal a corridor. Radios crackled, voices carried in strange echoes, and the drone war went blind under the earth, reducing combat to footsteps, whispers, and sudden close-quarter contact. Above ground, the fight was block to block. Warehouses, rail spurs, and salt sheds turned into strong points. Ukrainian teams mined approaches and set interlocking fields of fire. FPV drones hunted over snowy lanes. Mortars stitched the streets while snipers watched broken windows. When a position risked collapse, defenders fell back a block, then hit the assault groups again as they crossed open ground. Pressure mounted day by day. Wagner pushed through the industrial belt and along the northern edge, grinding forward with small assault groups. Ukrainian observers corrected fire in real time, but electronic warfare ebbed and flowed. Drones were jammed, then replaced, the picture never complete. The geometry repeated: probe, mine strike, pile up, enfilade, then another push under falling snow. By mid-January, Russian gains inside Soledar were substantial. Ukrainian units withdrew to stronger lines west of the town's ruins, trading the streets for better ground while inflicting heavy losses. The town fell, but not cheaply, an attritional wind that set pressure on Bakhmut's northern approaches. As one correspondent summarized, the mines swallowed the echoes. The cost stayed on the snow. Chapter 3. The Eastern Front burns. By mid-December, analysts agreed. The fight had become a war of attrition, and its epicenter was Bakhmut. Once home to 70,000, it was now a husk of shattered concrete, stairwells open to the snow, streets mapped by shell craters. Yet the place pulled in men and materiel like a gravity well. Here, under constant artillery and drones, both sides traded meters for lives, and the cost was tallied in ruined blocks and exhausted battalions. Expert analysis. By mid-December, Russia concentrated on Bakhmut. The objective wasn't territory alone, but attrition, absorbing Ukraine's firepower while pushing from north, south, and east. The Wagner plan was methodical and menacing. Press from 3 axes, hinge the flanks, and close the pincers. North through Yahidne and Berkivka toward the ME03. South around Klishchivka's high ground and the T-0504, the road of life. From the east, push across the industrial belt and into Bakhmutsky's approaches. The goal was not speed but strangulation. Isolate the garrison, cut the arteries, and grind the defenders down block by block. Inside the city, strategy collapsed into stairwells and basements. Trenches fed into apartment blocks. Courtyards became crossfires, every window a sniper's angle. The fight was vertical, roof to cellar, floor by floor. Streets once crowded with life were pre-sighted kill lanes. Progress was counted in doorways, in fragments of buildings where a machine gun team or a mortar tube could hold a whole block at bay. Wagner's approach was attritional by design. Poorly trained prison recruits went first, human probes to draw fire and reveal Ukrainian positions. Then veterans followed with mortars, artillery walks, and small assault groups slipping through breaches at night. Overhead, drones from both sides wrote a cruel transparency over the battlefield. Cover lasted seconds. A misstep drew an FPV strike from beyond the smoke. Ukraine answered with elastic, intelligent defense. Strong points were knit ruin to ruin. Fields of fire overlapped, and mortar crews corrected in real time from quadcopters. Javelin and Stugna teams created ambush alleys for any vehicle daring the avenues. When flanked near Klishchivka, or pressed inside the city, platoons peeled back along prepared routes, one block, then another, resetting traps and making each renewed push pay again. The cost was staggering. Medics worked in basements and stairwells with dwindling kits, their world punctured by constant shell bursts. Night after night, evacuations threaded the mud and craters, headlights off, along the T-0504. Supply runs mirrored the risk. For every Ukrainian loss, Wagner's assault echelons thinned, experienced cadres burning away as the lines barely moved. By mid to late February, mass finally bent the lines west. The Bakhmutka River carved a harsh seam, Wagner to the east, Ukraine in the west. Factories and warehouses on the eastern belt fell, but no clean breakthrough followed. Blocks toppled, then the advance stalled under counterattacks. Defenders bounded to pre-sighted positions and resumed fire, resetting the geometry of the fight. On analysts' maps, more of eastern Bakhmut shaded red, but the encirclement never closed. The northern and southern jaws, through Berkivka and Klishchivka, were blunted and slowed. Supply roads still breathed, barely, under snow, fog, and darkness. From the heights west of the city toward Chasiv Yar, Ukrainian guns reached deep, punishing new footholds and hassling Wagner's logistics. By late March, the line hardened into stalemate. Wagner held much of the east, a Pyrrhic grip on rubble. Ukraine held the west and the high ground sloping to Chasiv Yar, owning observation and fires. The calculus was clear: hold, fix, and attrit the attacker. Each day bought time to train brigades, to field drones and armor, and to prepare for whatever spring would bring. Farther north, along the Kupiansk-Svatove-Kreminna axis, winter stalled operations. The Oskol River and the pine forests fixed the line into cold geometry. Probe, counterprobe, no breakthrough. Armored patrols and recon screens moved in short bounds under snow-dusted pines, quick halts, overwatch, sappers clearing lanes, drills repeated until instinct took over. Sinkivka, Petropavlivka, Ploshchanka, hamlets at the tree line traded hands, squads in white overwhites fighting for a ditch, a copse, a single block. No sweeping advances, only registered artillery, mortar trades, and small unit raids along pre-sighted tree lines raked by machine gun fire. Overhead, small UAVs mapped every movement, spotting, adjusting fires, and cueing FPV strikes that punished any lapse in camouflage or noise discipline. Trenches froze into hard angles. Platoons wrestled for hedgerows, logging tracks, and field lines. 5 houses one day, 3 the next. Night meant movement. Thermals, tripwires, and mines turned each approach into a puzzle of timing, light, and silence. By March, reconnaissance and prepared belts stabilized the sector. The Oskol line held. Around Svatov and Kreminna, the map barely shifted even as contacts never ceased. These quieter fronts rarely made headlines, yet they drained men, ammunition, and time. An attrition ledger written in snow and smoke. The line held, and so did the pressure, preserving momentum for the spring thaw. On the Dnipro's west bank, Kherson recalibrated after Russia's withdrawal. Ukrainian units consolidated riverfront positions, mapped firing points, pushed patrols to the waterline. Across the frozen span, Russian artillery and drones ranged in from the left bank, harassing fire by day, heavier barrages at dusk. Counter-battery radars hunted for muzzle flashes at night. Brief arcs marked duels across the water. Riverside districts bore the brunt: shattered facades, emptied streets, sandbagged checkpoints. Sirens cut through the wind. Civilians queued for water at tanker trucks where mains had failed, filling canisters under sporadic shelling. Aid posts clustered near basements and courtyards. Movement timed to lulls along the Zaporizhzhia sector. The front settled into the steppes' long lines. Orikhiv, Huliaipol, Polohai became anchors for patrols and raids. Small units testing hedgerows. Small units testing tree belts. Small units testing farmsteads. Drones skimmed low over fields, spotting trenches, adjusting mortars, cueing FPV strikes. Minefields multiplied belts, marked on tablet maps. Lanes probed by sappers' stakes and tape shifting with each freeze and thaw. Artillery trades set the rhythm, registration, correction, suppression. Positions hardened dugouts, deepened revetments, layered with timber and tire wire strung in zigzags under frost. Both sides laid in logistics for spring ammo caches, dispersed fuel-buried casualty routes rehearsed. Skirmishes flared at the edges of villages. 2 streets contested a tree line lost. A tree line retaken, then receded to observation and drones. From ridge to river, the southern front held a static shape but constant motion. UAVs, riding invisible grids in the sky, guns checking each other's range, infantry rotating through cold trench sectors. It was preparation camouflaged as stalemate, the ground set and measured, waiting for the thaw. Chapter 6: Humanitarian Toll. In December and January, Russia's strikes on Ukraine's energy grid turned winter into a battle for light, heat, and water. Substations burned, transformers failed, and cities slipped into rolling darkness. Yet across the country, people adapted, improvising power, sharing warmth, and keeping communities alive between air raid sirens. Waves of missiles and drones targeted high-voltage nodes, knocking out lines, tripping plants, and forcing nationwide load shedding. Schedules posted by utilities became daily lifelines. Crews raced outage to outage, isolating shorts, swapping breakers, and bringing neighborhoods back block by block. Points of invincibility, heated tents and municipal hubs, sprang up in parks and squares. Inside, tea, sockets, Wi-Fi, and first aid. Lines formed to charge phones and power banks. For many, a few warm hours and a full battery meant school, work, and family could continue one more day. Kyiv resident. We sleep in coats. When the lights return, even for an hour, we charge phones, boil water, and call family, then wait for the next outage. With pumps down, water trucks became lifelines. People queued at dawn with canisters. Stairwells echoed with the clatter of jugs. Where central heat failed, families turned to stoves, blankets, and improvised boilers. Heat measured in rooms, not apartments. Classrooms became clinics and relief points. Volunteers triaged in hallways, handed out hot meals, and delivered medicines to the elderly trapped on high floors when elevators died. The network, neighbors, NGOs, city services, tightened as the grid loosened. Generators became currency, noisy islands of light outside shops, clinics, and shelters. Fuel runs threaded icy roads. Extension cords snaked over thresholds. A single outlet fed 10 devices. In winter's hardest weeks, resilience was measured in kilowatts shared. Grid dispatchers fought rolling collapse in real time, rebalancing load, rerouting through damaged nodes, and black-starting districts after strikes. Each restoration was temporary, each lull a chance to repair one more line before the next alarm. Nights fell darker. From high-rises, only a scatter of windows glowed on generator hum. Families layered coats, boiled water on camp stoves, and studied by flashlight. Life paused, then continued, hour to hour between outages. The Second Army wore hard hats. Linemen and repair crews worked under snow and shrapnel risk, splicing lines, replacing transformers, and standing poles by headlamp. Their tempo set the rhythm of recovery. The toll was human and vast. Millions displaced, neighborhoods thinned, routines uprooted. Businesses moved west or went dark. Economists tallied losses. Communities counted the cost in loved ones far from home. Aid kept the system breathing. Grants, fuel, transformers, generators. International support flowed to municipal budgets and shelters, buying time for repairs and keeping essential services alive through the coldest weeks. Basements and garages turned into workshops, rewinding motors, fixing inverters, and fabricating stovepipes. Neighborhood teams built and repaired what they needed faster than any central depot could deliver. A volunteer engineering web emerged. CNC welders, 3D printers, producing brackets, mounts, and spares. Improvised solutions kept clinics, shelters, and communications online when standard parts ran out. Logistics defined survival. Generators and transformers inbound, heaters, food, and medicine outbound. Warehouses dispersed, routes varied, and deliveries timed to sirens and lulls. Every successful run stitched another seam in a torn grid. Between strikes, lights returned. First a street, then a block, then a district. Applause echoed in shelters as signs flickered on. Resilience wasn't a slogan. It was the moment the kettle boiled and a phone reconnected. The winter of 2022-2023 tested more than armies. It tested neighbors, line crews, teachers, medics, and volunteers, an ecosystem of endurance. In this war of wires and warmth, keeping the lights on became its own kind of victory. By late January, the economic front tightened. The EU embargo on refined oil products bit hard, while export controls choked high-tech components. Moscow pushed discounted crude to distant buyers. Gas flares burned revenue into the sky. Markets twitched with each strike and sanction, numbers scrolling like aftershocks across trading floors. Ukraine survived on an aid lifeline and ingenuity, pallets and generators inbound, while garages spun up CNCs, 3D printers, and FPV drones. Western armor queued on railcars as politics caught up. Patriots announced, Leopard debates resolved, training and logistics stitched for what came next. Politics of winter. The U.S. announced Patriot systems. Europe debated and approved Leopard 2 tanks. Training calendars and logistics lanes formed while both capitals framed the war as existential. On the ground, Soledar fell and the siege of Bakhmut tightened. Both sides dug in. Trenches, mines, teeth of concrete freezing into the map. Winter ended. The war did not. This was a test of endurance, measured in meters, fuel, and will. Ukraine War. The Winter Struggle, December 2022 to January 2023.